Hello and welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do. And we're friends now. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua, and the two help. I don't have chapstick on. Cut. Hello and welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and the two hell kittens, actual cats, not humans, Minerva and Astoria. And this is my corner of the internet where we talk about all the things that I'm knitting and spinning and sewing and potentially weaving. It is just fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. There are a million voices vying for your attention on the internet, and there's a new one every single day, especially now. And you saw whatever this is and decided to give it a go, and that makes you a rad human. If you're a returning viewer, you already know what time it is. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. Today is December 17th. I literally don't know what day it is anymore, which I feel like I've said 100 times. It continues to be true. Today's December 17th, and we are opening day 8 of the winter box from Akari Yarns, Rose at Akari Yarns, and we are moving right along. I will say the one thing about filming every single day is like I feel every day passing. There's been a few months in my life where I felt like time was just getting away from me and I had no idea what was going on. And this filming everyday situation, I feel every single minute. I don't know if I ever want to feel that again. I don't know if that's a good thing, but that's where we are right now. So I will say that I was correct, and day 7 was indeed the South Down. Rose, just, you know, stuff happens. And 6 and 7 got swapped. So 6 should have been the South Down, which is what I spun on day 7. It is okay. My nemesis has been vanquished. The dragon has been slayed. I rolled a nat 20. We had a critical hit. It's done. And it's gone. I don't know if I'll ever spin South Down top again. And that's it. Maybe a different, listen, top is not, if you're a spinner, you know this, but all top is not created equal, because you might get a breed from one dyer that you don't like, and then you get that same breed from another dyer who sources their fiber from somewhere else, and you might love it. But I don't ever want to risk this South Down situation again, because spinning these 2 ounces fully sent me. Full send. And like, why would I risk it? So I'm never gonna spin it again. I do enjoy South Down, and I enjoy the downs in carded form. So since I know I enjoy the downs in carded form, we're gonna stick to carded preps. I mean, I tend to prefer most things in carded preps. So they're chronically disorganized. So I did not tell you what we spun on day 6 because I didn't find out what we spun on day 6 until I spun day 7 and realized that there was an issue. So day 6, which should have been day 7. I'm saying a lot of words. What I spun on day 6, that fun chocolatey plummy brown situation, was Dorset, which is probably why I loved it, because I like Dorset. I really enjoy Dorset. This is my first time spinning combs Dorset. I normally spin carded Dorset, and I have processed a little bit of a Dorset fleece. So this is my first time spinning comb Dorset, but I really like Dorset, and we have the sheet Bible. Let's go find Dorset in the book. So the quote Dorset, there's Dorset Down, and there's Poles Dorset, and those are 2 different things. I'm gonna look for a Dorset. There we go, Dorset Down. Yes, so the Dorset Down and Pole Dorset, the fibers tend to be different. Pole Dorset tends to be a little bit, what's the word? Like silkier? That's not the word. It's probably like lower micron is probably the best word. And Dorset Down tends to be like big blocky staples. I know this because I processed both of these fleeces. So we're gonna go to Dorset Down. The Dorset Down was a relative latecomer to the field of down breeds in the 1840s. I love that this is a latecomer and they were breeding them in the 1840s. That is wild to me. So they are a cross between South Downs and the local native ewes in Dorset, and now we have Dorset Downs. They've incorporated Hampshire bloodlines to add more South Down, but they are distinct enough to be their own breed. Apparently there are no Dorset Downs in the United States, although they're common in the United Kingdom. I gotta ask Rose where she got her top. So fiber is 25 to 29 microns, which feels correct. Dense, resilient, medium grade fleeces with blocky rectangular staples also feels correct. So spinning tips. A nice versatile fleece. Dorset down is a medium handling wool. You can card shorter fleeces or flick and comb longer ones to maintain the loft and springy character. Spin while keeping the drafting on the lighter side and the twist at moderate levels. That feels like everything I know to be true, and I think that's, I did end up taking the ratio. I'm gonna keep like tossing my hair around, and I probably should just put it up in like another messy bun. I tried to be cute for y'all. I don't know if I succeeded, but I probably should just put my hair up. That is part of the reason why I took the ratio down to 12:1 when I was spinning this, because I could already tell that I was putting too much twist. I don't like that. That I was putting too much twist in the fiber, so I took the ratio down to 12:1. My wheel is set to go back to 12:1. I spun the south down at 15, and my wheel is set to go back to 12 because I remember spinning the first time that 12:1 was better. Yeah, so we're gonna get going. We're gonna open day 8. I can't believe we're on day 8, and that means we only have 4 more. Rose's box came with a full 4-ounce top also, but there's only 4 more little bundles. The Present Dance, cha-cha, cha-cha, meow, 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 cha-cha, meow, meow, meow. I gotta come up, I don't know how many more songs I'm gonna come up with. I got 4 more days worth of songs to come up with. I might as well get to work. All right, let's just see. Oh, this might be my favorite. Okay, this is really fun because Rose has been including a lot of complementary colors on the same braid, and it feels like it works. Okay. Here we go. Here's day 8, which is, that's beautiful. So it's coral, but like navy blue, and it doesn't feel patriotic the way the red and blue situation felt, and there's still a little bit of like undyed spots. There's like breaks. I don't know if this is intentional or if they're just breaks in the dye, but there's a few like undyed spots. I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this. All right, I'm gonna get going and we're gonna start spinning. And today we are going to talk about process and product making, because someone, it wasn't an original question that I got. It wasn't one of the original questions that I got, but oh, there's no space here. It wasn't one of the original questions that I got, but someone had like mentioned to me and asked me like what my thoughts were, and I couldn't stop thinking about it because I have thoughts. And I was just like, what if we talk about it during Vlogmas, since I have thoughts, and I'm sure you might also have thoughts. So I've already started spinning. I don't know if you could tell, I've already started spinning. I have thoughts, so I thought we would, we'll work through some of those thoughts together. So here's one of my initial thoughts, and this might be a hot take. I feel like a lot of the things I say sometimes are hot takes, but this might be a hot take. I reject all binaries. All of them. Every single one. I reject all binaries. They aren't real. They don't exist. So when people ask me if I am a process or a product maker, I choose to hang out in the liminal spaces, and I choose to hang out in the and space. So instead of asking me if I am a process or a product maker, my response is I am a process and a product maker. And because I think a lot of this stuff is situational, I feel like most binaries are situational, and so I don't choose, and I refuse to choose one or the other, and I will never choose one or the other. I think process and product making, I feel like it's just another fun way for us to figure out how to divide people, which, listen, sometimes being divided into groups are fun. I love astrology. I love the Enneagram. I love a good label, I think, when they fit. But this whole telling people that you have to choose one or the other, or like describe your making style in one word. How am I supposed to describe the thing that I do for 70% of my free time in one word? Like, that seems wild to me. So I am neither, I refuse to choose one. I am a process and a product maker. And it varies for a lot of reasons. It could vary based on the craft. It could vary based on how I'm feeling. It could vary based on the particular object that I'm working on. I find that in general, if I had to choose like an umbrella, I'm gonna have to put my hair in a bun. I'm already starting to get sick of it. I find that if I had to choose one, I find that my spinning tends to be mostly process making. My knitting tends to be mostly product making, and my sewing is somewhere in between. But the part of the reason why I have trouble, okay, I'm gonna have to figure out this hair situation immediately. Part of the reason why I have trouble picking, and also why I refuse to pick, is I think it depends for me on which stage of the project that I'm in. So in the beginning, when you're brainstorming and you're daydreaming and you're doing all that stuff, that already feels like process making. And all making starts with the daydream. All making starts with the percolating stage, where you have an idea and you're not sure what's going to come of that idea, but you give that idea life and you give it form and you take time to breathe your own energy into it, and you sit there and you hold it close at night. Oh, am I the only person who talks to my making that way? I must be the only person who talks to my making that way. But all making starts with, most of my projects I literally daydream about at 2 in the morning when I can't sleep. Or somebody posts something on Instagram and I lose my mind and it lives rent-free in my head immediately. But most of my projects spend a fair amount of time in the percolating phase. I think a lot about what I want to do. I think a lot about how I want to do it. I think a lot about the materials it'll take. I think a lot about the labor it'll take, and if I have the emotional and physical capacity, because a lot of knitting, I mean, knitting and spinning and all that stuff is physical labor, but I think there's a certain emotional component that goes into this sort of labor that we're making. You're literally leaving your heart in a finished object. I mean, or at least that's the way I make. I leave my heart in a finished object. There's so much, I mean, I can hook up a sweater and remember where I was mentally and emotionally while I was working on it, what I was doing, what places I took it to, who saw it while I was working on it. Like, I feel like everything we make has a story, and everything we make can tell a story, and you can choose how much of your energy and how much of that story you want to invest in your object, but everything we make has a story and tells a story. So every make is a process. Now you could start something because you just want the finished object, but does that make it less of a process make if it still has the process, if it's still you spending time with it and spending, and that's the thing, that's the reason why I don't really understand the question about, you know, being a process maker or a product maker, because there have been a few things that I've started that I wasn't really enamored with I didn't really romanticize the idea of spending hours and hours and hours on it. So would that classify it as a product make if I don't spend the time romanticizing? I guess I just don't understand the classification, and so that's part of the reason why I wanted to kind of talk through it with all of you and see what your thoughts are in the comments. But I feel like because spinning is my preferred craft, it is a craft that has my whole heart. It is it's a primitive craft, and it very much helps me feel grounded. It's wool magic. It literally feels like magic. We are taking this raw material, which is true of everything else, right? Like with every other making, you take a raw material and somehow you end up with a finished product. But something about spinning, just I guess because it feels like a primitive craft, something about spinning just feels like you're going way, way back, and just going from like something that came off a sheep yesterday, and then in your hands with a few, maybe a lot of time and some elbow grease and some just dedication to your craft can be something that you can wrap up someone you love in. That feels like sorcery to me. It always has. It still does. I've been doing it for a really long time and it still feels like sorcery to me. So something about spinning will feel more like a process make to me than a product. Now, there have been a few spins that I've started that I did not enjoy the process of, and halfway through it I was just like, okay, I just want to get this off my wheel. And I think that's where we start to wander into the, okay, I guess this is a product make situation because you don't love the process. I guess. But most of my spinning, unless I'm spinning like that south down was definitely, if any of my spins could be qualified as a product make and not a process make, that south down was definitely a product make because I did not enjoy that. But I don't think, here's my thought, I don't think not enjoying the process makes anything less a process project, because there has to be something about the process that you didn't enjoy. And I'm hoping that something about the thing that you didn't enjoy about the process teaches you a lesson about how you want to spend your time and your energy in the future. So that south down has taught me that I don't want to spin south down top. It has taught me to really evaluate my fiber for fiber that doesn't hold well together and that splits. Fiber that in top form is really inconsistent in terms of staple length and is prone to slubbing. Like, all of those things are not things that I've encountered before in top format for me to know that I'm not going to enjoy that. This Dorset, on the other hand, is super consistent, super even. It is drafting like a whole dream, and I am loving every single draft of this. Which, you know, I figured I would because I really enjoy Dorset. So I don't think that not enjoying the process makes something less of a process make. I find that I try to be intentional about the time that I spend with the things that I make, because I don't have as much making time as I would like. And I think that's part of the reason why I tend to reject the idea of things being products. I don't have as much time with my making as I would like. I do have a full-time job, and my full-time job, even when I'm not at work, like, really takes away a lot of my spoons. Like, it really dips into how much free energy I have to devote to the things that bring me joy. And then in addition to having a full-time job, I have a pretty robust social life. I mean, D&D alone keeps me pretty busy, and I can knit at D&D, but like, I can't sit at my spinning wheel at D&D. And I can't sew at D&D. So D&D has primarily become knitting time, because that is pretty much all I can do and sit and engage in the story and engage with my friends. But I also have a pretty busy family. My sister has 3 little boys. My brother has a little girl. I try to see them as much as possible. So as much as I would love to hide out in my hermit cave, I really can't. And I choose not to. I choose not to hide out in my hermit cave. I choose to engage in the world. I choose to hang out with my friends as much as possible. My social batteries are really filled back up by seeing the people that I love. And so I don't have as much crafting time as I would like. I do threaten on a regular basis to fully quit my job and just stay home and make all day, but I also don't think that I would find that fulfilling either. I think that part of the reason why I enjoy my craft so much is because it feels like I'm sneaking, like I'm stealing, it's stolen minutes. And so because it's stolen minutes, every bit of it feels precious. It's the reason why I will never make my craft my job. I find that, you know, capitalism ruins everything. And once you make your craft your job, now this is my own personal journey, because I know several people who have made their craft their job and who love every single second of it. I find that is really hard for me. It is the reason why I have not had a bat update, and I have bats carded. And I have like the raw materials ready to go, but I'm very much in my own head about it, and I just need to get out of my own head about it. But I'm very much in my own head about, will this ruin this for me? Like, I had the first bat update and it went really well, and then I got into the, okay, am I about to ruin this thing that brings me joy? And I just need to get past the it's going to be fine situation, and I haven't gotten past the it's going to be fine step. But that is part of the reason why I consider my makes more of a process situation than a product situation, because I knew that was going to snap on me. Because I have such little making time, I want to make sure that I'm present with every stitch, I'm present with every treadle, I'm present at my sewing machine. And again, that is a personal choice that I choose to make, but it is my ethos around making. If I'm not present, and I'm just kind of going through the motions, and I'm not saying that every day is going to be a day where I can be as present as possible, because some days you just got to go through the motions. Some days you just got to do the thing, do the work that's yours to do so that you can continue to the next day. So not every day is going to be a super zen, super thoughtful like situation, but I try to make most of my making feel that way. I try to make most of my making feel super thoughtful and super intentional, because my making is what fills me back up, and there is enough in my life, that orifice hook is staying on the floor. There is enough of my life that is just product fueled that I don't want my making to become that way. The other reason that I try not to make my making become product fueled is, I've said this multiple times, I am an Enneagram type 3, and I am an achiever. And for a very long time, and still now, even though I am in therapy and working through it, most of my self-worth was geared towards what I could produce. And I'm trying to avoid marrying that dialogue to my making, and marrying my making to production because once that happens, there's going to be a very slippery thing that happens in my brain where I start marrying my self-worth to how many finished objects I have at the end of the year. And I don't need to go there. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. I don't need to be in that place. That is not a good place for me to be in. So by keeping my making process oriented and not product oriented, if I don't finish something, I don't feel bad about it. Just gonna sit with that for a second. When I start projects and I don't finish projects, because my making is not married to the idea of having something bound off my needles, I don't allow myself to feel bad about it the way I feel bad about not finishing other things that are product geared and product necessary. I don't know if I've ever said that out loud to myself. I've thought it, but I don't know if I've ever said that out loud to myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy the rush of a finished object, just like everybody else. I enjoy, you know, winding yarn off my nitty knotty and scanning it and holding it close as much as everyone else. In fact, I think I enjoy it more because of the work it takes for me to get there, because of the prioritization it takes for me to get there, because of the way I have to actually carve out sections of my life to get to that finished object. There is something very affirming and gratifying and heartwarming of having a finished object. But if I don't finish things, because my making is not tied to my productivity, that negative self-talk that likes to pop up in my head about other things doesn't really make its way into my crafting. And I won't let it, because so much of this is designed to recharge my batteries and to fill me back up. And if I keep that negative self-talk out of this, then it stays in the other corners of my head where it has plenty of room to live and grow and hang out. I don't want it over here. Now, there are some things that, you know, do require a product. If you sign up for a test knit, don't be a bad test knitter. I am sometimes a bad test knitter. I'm trying to be much better. I'm actually, you want to talk about test knitting? I lost my test knit for Sam for 2 weeks. It was in my it was in my apartment, but my apartment is a jungle. It really is. My mental health has not been great, and I have not had the bandwidth to keep up with the just mundane day-to-day tasks of tidying. And it is starting to get overwhelming. The clutter is starting to get overwhelming. And one of the things I want to do while I'm home from work is really just go through this with a garbage bag and get that junk out, because I need physical breathing room so I could have mental breathing room. But I lost my test knit for 2 weeks. And every day I got more and more overwhelmed. And yesterday I actually full on started crying because I couldn't find it. And then I took a deep breath and started looking in the same places that I had been looking before, and I found it. So for 2 weeks, I could not make any progress on my lagom because, you know, it was gone. It was fully gone. But I have found it, and I did work on it this morning, and I will stop knitting my traveler shawl because I really do need to make some progress on my sweater. And that traveler shawl will eat up all my time if I let it. But there are some things that have deadlines, right? Like, so if you have a test knit, or if you're volunteering to test sew a project, or if you're volunteering to do like sample makes, or like preview sew something, like there's a number of times you can commit to something that has a deadline, and that deadline is tiered and tied to a project. So the question is, how many of those things do you like volunteer for, and how many things do you tie yourself to before your making starts to feel bogged down by product fueled requirements? And I think that's a personal choice for everybody. There is no right or wrong way. My friend Casey test knits entirely too much for my anxiety. And every time Casey and I talk about not picking up any more test knits, Casey inevitably picks up another test knit. But Casey does really well with test knits, and she likes that kind of deadline fueled work. And I go through the ebb and flow of when my mental health will allow me to do that, and when it completely tanks and I just can't. I just cannot. And I have been part of what, like, my own journey towards like dealing with my neurodivergence and like trying to get a handle on my own mental health, because again, I need to be a fully functioning human to do my job. Otherwise I can't do my job. Part of that has just been really looking at the self-imposed deadlines and all the language that we use to talk to ourselves, and all the ways that we make the things in our lives harder than they need to be. Because, you know, listen, life's already hard. I don't think it needs our help. I don't think it needs us to facilitate making it any harder than it already is. It is already incredibly difficult. So what if, here's an idea, you know, you can choose to listen to me or not, but what if we don't allow that sort of like dialogue and that sort of duality and that sort of dichotomy into the thing that's supposed to be bringing us joy? And again, this is why I say everybody's on their own adventure, because I think there are people out there who love products, being a product maker. Like, there have to be people out there, because this question would not keep popping up if there weren't people who, you know, identified as product makers. And I know there are people who love having things hop on and off their needles, and they get a lot of fulfillment from having things come off their needles, and it's not, you know, unhealthy for everybody. But for me, it will quickly become unhealthy if Me Made May was a perfect example of how fast it becomes unhealthy for me, because I did not set out to make as many things during the month of May as I did. My plan was just to wear at least one handmade thing every day, just one. And then a week in, I was wearing fully handmade outfits. And I realized early on in the month that I did not have enough in my wardrobe to have a fully handmade outfit every day unless I started rapidly making clothes. And I had things that I wanted to make, and it wasn't like I went shopping with the purpose of Me Made May. I mean, you guys, if you've been here the whole month, you've seen my fabric stash. Like, I don't need to go shopping for projects. I have more than enough sitting on my shelf. And I had the patterns already. I just did not really have the sewing mojo or the time or any other the number of the reasons why I did not have the clothes made. But I started rapidly generating stuff because I needed to have something to wear, to take the picture for Me Made May. And in the beginning, it was really good. And by the end of May, I was starting to fall into those really slippery pathways where I was just like, I haven't had something come off my sewing machine in 3 days. Do I still know how to sew? Am I still a sewist? What is my value if I'm not connected to the things that I'm making? What is my value if I'm not wearing handmade clothes every day? What is my value if I'm not getting the dopamine of people like applauding me for having really thoughtful and really well made things made just for me? And I literally put my sewing machine in a closet for a week and did not let myself touch it, because I felt the real slippery pathways, and I felt myself going down these really winding paths about how I feel about myself and how I feel about my own creativity. And so what I'm saying at the end of the day is we should all have really interesting conversations with ourselves and interrogate our own making, especially right now where all my friends are gift knitting. The devil is a liar, y'all. That is not for me. The devil is a liar. I will not do that. I will gift knit, sure, but I'm not giving myself that imposed deadline of making hand knit presents for everybody for Christmas. It's not for me. It's not for me. It will make me anxious. It will make my craft a chore. It will make my craft a burden. And I don't need that for the thing that like really fills me up and makes me feel good about the choices that I'm making. So gift knitting is not for me. But I see lots of people who are just like, oh, I got to get 6 hats done by the end of the week. And it's just like, what if we stop and interrogate and like really think about how that makes us feel? Now, if getting 6 hats done by the end of the week feels good for you and is healthy for you and is affirming for you, do you, boo. Do what feels good. But if you're making 6 hats at the end of the week because you feel like you have to, or because that is the expectation of you as a maker, or because you feel like you're keeping up with all the other people making 6 hats by the end of the week, what if we stop and we interrogate why we make and how we make and how we want to make in the coming season? Because I did talk a lot about, you know, doing like quarterly interrogations of my making and not making big plans for a year at a time. But I just think I'm trying to be, especially in this coming year, really intentional about all the things in my life. And I don't want to just keep making choices because that's routine. And I don't want to keep making choices because that's what I'm used to. I want to make sure that everything I do, or as many things that I can, you know, spend this amount of emotional labor on, I want to make sure that those things feel thoughtful and intentional, and those are the choices that I'm choosing to make, and not choices that are being made for me. And not necessarily like, you know, someone's in the corner pointing fingers at you, but we internalize a lot of the things that we see, and we consume a lot of the things that we see, and I think a lot of that changes how we talk to ourselves and how we think. And that's just human nature. Like, we are social creatures, and our brains are going to constantly be rewired. by the things that we see out and about in the world. But I'm really trying to be intentional and thoughtful and interrogate the choices that I make about my own making. And that is part of the reason why I prefer to be a process maker. And I make sure that I don't let myself go down those rabbit holes of being somebody who is product oriented. I think there's a time and place for being product oriented. Every now and then you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got a deadline. I just volunteered to not test so because it's already been tested, to preview a pattern for a company that I really enjoy. And I have 3 weeks to make this item. And I'm already feeling a little bit of the deadline. And I have 3 weeks. My pattern has not arrived yet. I sent my pattern off to be printed because I was not taping that many pieces together. But my pattern has not arrived yet. And I have plenty of time to make this. But I'm already feeling... I'm feeling two things. I'm feeling the crunch of having to test sew a jacket, and I've never made a chore coat, so I'm like, okay, I probably need to twirl this to make sure it fits. I need to make sure I have enough time to twirl. But I'm also feeling a little bit of the, like, I'm daydreaming about the outfit that I'm going to make around this piece. I'm already thinking about, like, the video that I'm going to film around this piece. And it is quick, like, it's so easy for me to just start making room for things to become content. And I think that's the issue with me once I start making myself once my making starts slipping into product making versus product making, they start feeling like content generating machines. And I don't want to be a content creator, and I don't want to be someone who just generates stuff for content. And that's really what I hope that I leave you with after me babbling my way through this whole concept. And you might think that I'm, thinking a little bit too deeply about this, and that is totally okay, because we are all on our own making journey, and we are all allowed to prioritize and choose what we want to do and how we want to think about our craft. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm being as transparent as possible with how I plan on approaching things, but also just give you a little bit of a perspective that maybe you might not have heard before. I don't know if I see a lot of people online talking about, this sort of thing. I really applaud Kayla at the Marissa Made podcast and Laura Penrose for talking a lot about how mental health can be, just talking about mental health in general and how it can affect your crafting, and how, all these pathways and these loops that our brains form for us. And I just wanted to just add a little bit more to the conversation. Is being a product maker good for you? Is it a choice that you've made for yourself? And if it's not a choice that you've made for yourself, and if it's not something that's good for you, what if you leave that behind this year and you choose your own making journey, and you choose to do the makes that are good for you, and you choose the rhythms of the things that make you happy? I'm saying that right now as I am like forcing myself to stay awake at night to edit these Vlogmas videos. I mean, that alone is its own process. I don't know if Vlogmas is a process or a product situation anymore. In the beginning, it was a product situation to begin with. I was just like, gotta film that content, gotta get it up. And then I was just like, oh, I hate that word. Stop using that word when you talk to yourself. And at this point, it is very much a process. It is very much now becoming my own a video diary. I don't know what it is. But I am enjoying every second of it. I am enjoying making and putting them up and sharing them and reading all of your comments and engaging with you guys about it and listening to your own stories and your own traditions. And I'm very glad that I gave this a go. I'm incredibly glad that I gave this a go. So I guess this is now firmly in the process category. Yeah, I was gonna say this is a product situation, but now that I'm talking my way through it, I don't think that it is. I think I'm firmly happy to say that it is a process make. So, as much as I like hang out in the duality and the dichotomy of things, I do think that if I had to choose, I identify more with the process making of things, but I have been a product maker on occasion, and I just make sure that it is not something that I do all the time for my own health and my own well-being. I'm really interested to hear if this sparked, any sort of like conversations, internal conversations or external conversations about whether you are a process or a product maker, if you've ever interrogated your own making. If you plan on interrogating your own making, you don't have to. Choose your own adventure, boo-boo. This is your life. This is your choice and your craft, and no one gets to tell you how to do it. And if they do, send them to me. I'll tell them about themselves. But if you have interrogated your own making, or if you plan on interrogating your own making, I'm really curious to hear, you know, what your thoughts are, where you think you fall on the imaginary divide that does not exist because, you know, binaries are a myth. I'm just curious, and I'd love to have a conversation with you guys further about this in the comments. This Dorset has been a whole treat. I am flying through this because, again, it has been a whole treat. I think I might have enough time to get this finished before I have to go, you know, continue on with the rest of my day. But I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. I hope your December has been going really, really well. If you have been watching other Vlogmas channels, or if you're just, you know, watching this one when you can, I hope you're just, you know, making time for the things that bring you joy and prioritizing your own care and your own well-being and your own wellness in this season of Starlight, because if you don't do it, nobody else will.